Here are some things that I do with my kiddo in order to set her up for success for the school year. Okay. First of all, I start making sure she's getting up earlier because if your kiddo's like mine, she is just enjoying the sleeping in. I slowly get her into the process of waking up earlier about 10 days to 2 weeks before school starts, where it's just like, okay, 10 minutes earlier, we're going to get up 10 minutes earlier. And then the next day, 10 minutes earlier. And the next day, 10 minutes earlier, so that she can be ready to get up early for school. In this podcast, I introduced a new segment called Planting Seeds. And this is where I discuss a topic that might be 2 to 3 months off in terms of implementing, but I just want you to start thinking about it in advance so that when that time rolls around, you have some ideas about how you want to approach it. So in this episode, I talk about planting seeds for the end of summer, starting now. As I mentioned, I want to tweak the first part of the podcast and call it Planting Seeds because I just want you to get into the habit of thinking a few months ahead, because big things like planning a trip or planning to go back to school or starting a business or writing that book that you want to write, it's easier to think of those things a little bit in the future, not so far that it gives you a pass to not do anything about it, but far enough that you can kind of amp yourself up and get ready for this thing that's going to happen. So, part one of the podcast today, I'm calling Planting Seeds about the end of summer. Now, the end of summer is sometimes not a big issue. If you don't have school-age children in your life, then the end of summer might not be such a big thing. But I'm going to talk about it from both points of view. So, first, if you're a parent, the end of summer is a big deal because school is starting. And this is true if you homeschool like I did for many, many years, or if your kids go to regular school like my kid does now. Because even when you homeschool, there's still a little bit of a lull in summer because maybe some of the extracurriculars you do go on a hiatus, or maybe some people that you work with to provide your child's education take some summer breaks. So even in the homeschooling world, at least the homeschooling world I'm familiar with, there's still a little bit of a break in the summer. Maybe some of the play dates that happen, and I still call them play dates, even if my kid's a teenager. When we were still homeschooling, every other week, there was a group play date at a local park where she could socialize, and there was always an activity, etc. Okay, so even in the homeschool world, things change during summer. So as you are approaching school starting, here are some things that I do with my kiddo in order to set her up for success for the school year. Okay. First of all, I start making sure she's getting up earlier because if your kiddo's like mine, she is just enjoying the sleeping in. And I like to allow that because if you know any of the brain science behind kids and sleeping and their brains, allowing your child to sleep until they wake up is a gift for their brain health, because the brain is doing a lot of growing and fixing and repairing and recording of stuff and during sleep, and that's important that it doesn't get interrupted, which unfortunately gets interrupted. There was one study I saw that said that IQ points had dropped for every minute that school started earlier and earlier. So, and this is even more important at certain ages, like teens, it's even more important for them, which is why some schools now start half an hour or even an hour later. When I was homeschooling my kiddo, we wouldn't start schoolwork until 10 a.m. So I slowly get her into the process of waking up earlier about 10 days to 2 weeks before school starts, where it's just like, okay, 10 minutes earlier, we're going to get up 10 minutes earlier. And then the next day, 10 minutes earlier. And the next day, 10 minutes earlier, so that she can be ready to get up early for school. So that's one thing I do. The other thing I do for my kiddo is during the summer, I have her continue with a little bit of academic work so that she doesn't suffer from, brain drain where she just doesn't remember anything when the school year starts. Because let's face it, if you're not multiplying polynomials on a regular basis, you might forget. There's so many great ways to do this. I'm a big fan of summer bridge books, and I might have a link here to this. I'll put one in the show notes. They're summer bridge books. They're workbooks where you just have your kiddo do 4 or 5 pages a day. It'll take them maybe 30 minutes max. My favorite ones are actually set up in like an adventure style where every day they're going on a quest. Unfortunately, these stop, I believe, in 8th grade, but there's some great ones even for high school age kiddos. So keep your kiddo's brain working by doing a little bit of academic work. It will make the start of the school year so much better. A third thing that I do with my kiddo is towards the end of the summer, I have a conversation with her about what is it that you want to do this school year? What are the grades that you're envisioning working towards? What are the extracurriculars that you want to take part in? How are some ways that you want to grow and learn and experience? Because I think this ideation or visioning or just, contemplating what is it that I want to get out of this school year is just not something that happens on a regular basis. And so asking your kiddo to think, "Hey, how do you want this school year to go?" That's going to get them into the process of thinking about how they want their lives to go and what they want to focus on. For instance, my kiddo, I set up a boundary with her. She has one extracurricular that she does, and she's told me this freshman year of high school that she wanted to do a second extracurricular. And I said to her, if you want to do a second extracurricular, then all of your grades need to be A's and B's, and there need to be more A's than B's. I said 2 B's maximum if she wanted to have a second extracurricular, because her focus should be her schoolwork, and after that, then she can do an extracurricular, another one. So have these conversations with your kiddos. It's helpful for them to think about what is it that they want to get out of their life. It's priming their brain to think about planning for their life. What is it that they want to do? How do they want to prioritize their time? And also setting up healthy boundaries and knowing where to focus. My kiddo knows that if she's not getting things done with her academic work, then she's not going to be able to do the more social things of teenage life. And that's just a expectation that I have set. It's an expectation that I set for myself. She sees me getting my stuff done before I'm going out and, having fun. And I think that's a healthy way to introduce this concept. So those are 3 things I do. 1, start getting her up earlier, about 2 weeks beforehand, in small 10-minute increments, 10, 15-minute increments. 2, have them do some academic work by using either a workbook, or you can also use things like Khan Academy, which are free online kind of gamified learning experiences. Just if you look online for summer bridge activities, that's a great way to start. And then 3, have them think about and write down what it is they want to get out of this year. Maybe even put it in, I've done this with my kiddo before, where we tape it to her door, on her bedroom door, so that she sees it every day. This just gets them into the process of thinking about the future. So those are the 3 things to set them up for success. Now, if your kiddo is going to a new school this coming fall, then I have some extra tips for you. I just experienced this with my kiddo last year, and it was so helpful. Okay, the first thing is, if your kiddo is going to a new school and maybe they've never had a locker before, grab one of those combination locks and have them practice doing it. It took my kiddo about 5 minutes to do it, the whole, like, turn 3 times to the right and twice back to the left. But she was so glad she did, because she said it made it much easier that first day of school when she got a locker combination, because she wasn't feeling, like, her heart pounding and, "Oh my gosh." Humans learn by mimicking. We learn by seeing someone do something and then following their lead. That's how we learn to speak. That's how we learn to do a lot of things. My child, it's amazing what she's learned through osmosis just by watching me. For instance, she's an amazing cook. I have done some hands-on teaching with her, but she's also just learned a lot through observation. She's also really got great public speaking skills because she's seen me do a lot of public speaking. So that's how kids are designed to learn. So don't why force your child to go through the extra stress of learning a combination lock on the fly when it's something that you can teach them to do at home. So that's number 1. Number 2, see if your school has any activities for new class people. So for instance, because my kiddo was gonna be a freshman, they actually had they called them summer bridge as well. They had some summer bridge classes to introduce the kids to school. Now here's the thing, what was actually taught there wasn't the most valuable thing. The most valuable thing was that it gave my child the opportunity to walk around the campus and become familiar with the campus without the stress of, "Oh my gosh, I need to get to my next period. The bell just rung. I have no idea where that building is." This is especially true if your child goes to a really big school, as some of our urban schools are. They're very large. It can be hard. They're like college campuses. And if your child doesn't know their way around, that just adds a level of stress that you can help do away with by having them go to a summer bridge activity. If your school doesn't offer summer bridge activities, see if they offer a tour or ask them, "Can we just come in and walk around? My kid's going to school there." Campuses are open a lot of times. So maybe you just walk around and show your kid, "Hey, here's A building, here's B building, here's C building. This is where you have classes," and walk them from building to building just so that they know where they are. If you think about it, when you take your kid around to do errands, to the grocery store, to the bank, whatever, they go with you to do those things. You don't just say, "Hey, go grocery shopping, 16-year-old." They've been grocery shopping many, many times. So doing the same thing will help reduce their anxiety so much. I saw the fright in my child's eyes just leak away as she became familiar with the campus. So take advantage of any of those summer bridge opportunities, and if they don't have them, then take advantage of just take your kid to the school and see if they can go on a tour or if you can just do a self-guided tour. It will help them feel so much better. The final thing is to talk to your kid about age appropriate expectations. And again, this was something that I was so happy that they did at my kid's school. They actually one of the weeks of summer bridge activities that they had for my kid was nothing to do with academics. She went to 1 week of math, and then she went to 1 week of they called it study skills. And those study skills included things like talking about the appropriate and inappropriate use of devices in school. And so they were really just laying out what I guess non-academic expectations of being a student at the school meant. They talked about nutrition and lunch and what would be offered to them and how long it lasted and how it worked and where they would go. So it was just a really nice, soft way to introduce my kiddo to her new school environment. So if you have a kiddo changing schools, those are my extra tips for you. Finally, if you don't have kids, I encourage you to think about how you want the end of your summer to go. Did you do you already have time off planned? Have you planned your trips? Do you wanna plan an extra trip in August? I know that August is just kind of a popular time to think about travel as the warm weather is kind of ebbing. However, if you don't have kids, another great thing to think about is the travel the end of summer, the after summer travel that you're gonna take part in, because September is such a wonderful time to travel. When I was homeschooling, we would travel in September because that's when all the deals were running. Airfares are less expensive, hotels or Airbnbs or wherever you wanna stay are less expensive, and there's all sorts of cool fall activities happening all over the world, all over the country. So if you don't have kids and you have the freedom to travel when everyone else is in school, then think about, how do you want to spend your September? September might also be a great time to plan a getaway with friends. If you've watched my podcast before, then you might know that I do a annual trip with four of my closest girlfriends, and we have done them before in the fall once the kiddos are back in school. But again, if you don't have kiddos, this is a great time to take advantage of the discounted prices, because traveling in September all the way through, the second or third week of October, it's sort of this nice lull before the holidays start going in earnest. So think about how you want to spend your end of summer and September. Maybe you want to plan a trip for yourself or your friends. It's a great time to do that. Okay, so part 2 of the podcast, I'm going to talk about a monthly course correct, what it is and why I suggest you do one. And if you want to grab my free printable, go to tinyurl.com/BYWD course correct. So what is a monthly course correct? So thank you for joining me today. I hope you learned something. Please like and subscribe and rate my podcast. It really helps, and it's costs you nothing to do it. Just a simple boop. You can rate my podcast. I really appreciate it. And if you are ready to take your planning to the next level, consider checking out my course, the Harness the Power of Planning course. You can do an on-demand version at tinyurl.com/HPOP on demand. Hey, summer might be the perfect time to do this. It's 6 sessions. I recommend doing 1 session a week, so it's not a huge commitment. And summertime, hey, you could start the fall with a whole new vision for how you want to plan for the next year. And you don't have to wait for the new year to create a new plan for your life. The beginning of the month can be the new beginning. The beginning of the week can be the new beginning. Tomorrow can be the new beginning. Any time is a great chance to work on who it is that you want to be. Thank you for joining me. And as always, remember, planning makes everything easier. Thanks for listening to the Harness the Power of Planning podcast. Be sure to rate and like and subscribe and do all the things so that we can show up when you need us.